What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Revived. I am your host, as always, Shane Craig, and joining me is the lovely Jessi Craig.
Hello again.
After a good long while. If you do not know, Podcast Revived is where Jessi and I discuss the tech and sometimes gaming news, the goings on over the last month or so. We post this on YouTube as well as every major podcast service, from Spotify to podcasts on Google. All of these sorts of things. So if you can, iTunes as well, leave a like, a rating, a review, anything like that would help us out tremendously. So before we go any further, let's address the elephant in the room, that it has been almost 2 months since we've done a podcast. We're going to do it every month. It's like the 20th when we're recording this, and it's been since like a month and a half ago since we've done this. So, oops, sorry. Some stuff has changed on the YouTube channel, namely that I'm just not producing nearly as much content. Instead of doing like 6+ videos a week, I'm doing like 3+ a week. So that has happened. I'm doing a little bit of work at like a side job. And then, Jessi took a little trip and just some stuff has happened. We just haven't had time to do it. So sorry about that, but we're back, and hopefully, Lord, at this point, you'll probably hear from us again in like another week and a half to put us back on schedule. So hopefully enough stuff happens to make that warranted in doing that. So hopefully we're just back on track, back on schedule. Speaking of Jessi, the first thing I want to talk about is the Android 12 beta. And we don't have probably not a ton to talk about in terms of it. But Jessi does have a Pixel 5, and the Pixel 5 is one of the few devices in which you can install the Android 12 beta on. It's actually really cool because you just go to this website and you just opt in on your account, and then you check for an update, and then there it is. It's awesome. So in your couple of days playing around with the beta, what do you think? What is your feeling about it? How are you feeling about the Android 12 beta?
Well, one thing I really like about it is it kind of makes me feel like I just have a new phone because it's different. And I really like that feeling. So I've got this really nice, it turned on. I wonder if I can turn it without turning it on. You can see the always on display, which I love, but it's just big, it's clean.
What's cool too, lock your phone again.
Oh, yeah.
Lock your phone again. Whenever you unlock it, whenever you hit the power button, it's hard.
I'm using my fingerprint here. Hold on. There's a...
Yeah.
It's not working, but...
No, it did there. It's going to be hard to see it, but if you lock it again and just hit the power button, you'll see that the screen turns on from the power button over. Like it lights up next to the power button and then goes back out. And I think it does in reverse when you lock it. I think that the blackness closes in on the power button, which is really cool.
Yep. I like the new PIN verification thing. All the buttons are really big. I really like that coming up. I just, I know you don't like big fonts or anything, but like I do. Like I really like all of this stuff right here. And it kind of reminds me of the Xiaomi phone that I had. The last update I had for it made it kind of reminded me of like the iPhone, iOS or whatever. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, so so the biggest thing there on your notification shade is that before, stock Android, and I know you all know this, but you're dealing with quick toggles, and they're just little circles and they look like that. Well, now on Android 12, and I'm going to show a picture-in-picture so I can just show you on a screen here. Now they're much larger tiles. They've also changed the way that they're handling notifications, the way that they're grouping. It's going to be hard to really see this, but basically when you have multiple notifications from the same app, the whole grouping is rounded, but then when you swipe one away, it squares off as you move it. There's all sorts of nice little touches there in terms of just the aesthetic there, in particular in your notification shade and stuff like that. one cool thing too that I noticed in your settings screen, if you'll pull up your settings like we were looking at earlier, that's on the fold. And as she pulls it up on hers, actually, yeah, hit where it says settings down there on towards the middle of the screen. Yeah. That's on the Pixel now. And it looks real. I got my ring light, but it looks really similar. So what they're doing, less so than on Samsung, they've moved everything down just a hair. And, and obviously the thing there is that, you know, you can just reach stuff easier. It's just on the lower side of the screen. So I do see some Samsung One UI influences there in it. There's theming. You can theme your device now. So those tiles, yours are kind of a greenish tealish color.
Like a teal.
Well, they don't have their theme engine running yet, but in the future betas and the final build, obviously, when you set your wallpaper, you can have your theme set up. When you set your wallpaper, Android is going to pull a color from it, and it's going to make that the accent color across your device automatically, which is really cool. Obviously, you can make it whatever you want, but the fact that Android 12 now finally has inbuilt theming, that's like finally, but that's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad that it's there. What else do we have? There are more widgets, which I don't think you've really played with the new widgets very much.
I haven't yet.
But there are some new widgets, new animations.
The animations, I can already kind of see them. Like, I can kind of tell. Yeah. Especially with, what was it? I was doing something the other day. I think I had gotten like a message from you or like my mom or somebody, and then I've got my weather widget, and then I had a book at the bottom, like from Audible, and it had it just stacked, and the way that it was stacked looked really nice too. I was able to, like, it was not something that was ever gone, but like it just looks better.
Yeah. They've changed where they're
play
handling
pause and all that stuff.
Yes, and that's actually something Android 11 tweaked a bit too, where you know, like on mine right now, I've got the last two audio things I've played was a Google podcast and just a song, and it just consistently will live here at the top. It's just
that's what I was trying
there.
to explain.
Yeah, and you can just swipe. I just threw it away, so it's gone now because I swiped the wrong direction. But you can move back and forth between them. So like, I just leave that there all the time, because then if I want to go back to that podcast, I don't have to unlock my phone, go to Google Podcast. I can just go notification, hit play again, and it's just there. It just lives there forever, which is really really helpful. That's a super cool feature, and it's something that they tweaked a bit more in Android 12. They've also, they're working on some privacy features. This is also not in the beta yet, but in the future betas, you'll have a notification in the corner that will be colored, and it will tell you when your camera or your microphone is being used. There will also be toggles in your quick setting tiles to disable your mic or your camera outright, which is going to be helpful for privacy concerned people. So if an app is using,
nice.
iOS has had this, so kudos to them for having already done this. But when your camera is being used, your phone will not be telling you, hey, something's using your camera, and you can touch it and it'll tell you what app is using it. Awesome. Very, very cool. What else? You can now have a setting where if you hold down your power button, you will trigger Google Assistant, which I think that is toggleable. I don't think you've turned that on yet, but I would, because that's a cool feature. Currently,
I did by accident.
Right now, if you want to trigger the assistant, you can say the hot phrase, which I won't say because I'm not going to trigger all your old stuff. You can also swipe from the corner in, and it'll trigger it, which I always have a hard time triggering that every time. So I cannot wait to just be able to hold down the power button and trigger the assistant, because I use the assistant quite a bit. And, the corner swipe just kind of sucks. So definitely a lot going on there in terms of the aesthetics. The privacy features I think, much needed and are very cool. Overall, I mean, how do you I assume you feel positively about this?
Oh yeah, I really like it. I'll be glad when like all of it's out so that I can really play around with that, especially the like the theming thing where you just pick a picture and it pulls out one of the colors from there. That's going to be really fun to play with. But overall, I really like it. I'm not a hater on small font, but it is funny to me how every time we get like a new updated version, they kind of go back and forth between being like big and bubbly and then also like kind of small and clean.
Yeah, they're finding a balance there. And I think before They called it Material Design. Now they're calling it Material U. So it's like, yeah, it's a little silly, but
lame.
I get what they're saying is like it's their material design, but now it's going to be based around you. You're going to make the decisions of how it's going to look, which cool. I get it. I like the customability. Customization with an actual word instead of the nonsense I just said. And that's something that I think Android has a big advantage in, is that that it's going to let you do these sorts of things. Unfortunately, as I've seen from some of my Duo followers on Twitter and on the YouTube comments who have asked me, will Android 12 come to the Surface Duo? Well, I think we need to get Android 11 first. And unfortunately, that's not here. We were told...
What if they don't? What if they skip 11, they go straight to 12?
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So we were told early on, summer 2021, expect Android 11. Well, it is May. What's the first day of summer? Like June? June something, right?
Let's find out. Let me use my... Oh, that doesn't work.
I guess you hadn't enabled it yet.
I didn't, did I?
You're still getting the hold the power button to get your home controls and all that stuff, which the home controls are now moving to.
First day of summer. Hopefully it knows our... Oh, June 20th. That seems really late.
June 20th. Okay. So we're running out. We got a month, right, before it's going to be summer, whatever that means. And then, like, summer ends in September. So it's a short window there, June, July, August, September. So we're running out of time for Android 11 as it is. We're expecting from what you're going to take this somewhat with a grain of salt because I can't corroborate it. And this is... I don't mean this in any, I'm not saying that I don't trust this person. Let me pull this up on the little overlay here. It appears, I'm hearing some things online. I'm going to show you the whole thread here, that the next Surface Duo update in general, apparently going to be May 25th. Apparently this comes from Zach Bowden. Steven here on Twitter had asked him somewhere. I couldn't find on Twitter where he asked him. I don't know, maybe he asked him on Reddit or something. But the next update's apparently next week. It's not going to be Android 11. So that means it's monthly. So maybe June, maybe. But like, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. The last two updates have made my device considerably worse.
Yeah.
To the point that it now, lives over here. And I pick it up a couple times a day and play with it to make sure nothing weird has happened.
You pick it up and you're like, oh, are you working well now? No.
I mean, I used it for a while, a longer time yesterday than normal. And there's moments when I use it that I still love it, I love the form factor, but it's just frustrating, all the weird things that it currently does, and it's really hard for me now to go back to it after using the Fold for as long as I have, because I've gotten to a place where I'm familiar enough with the Fold that all of the things that Duo does really well, that pulls me to the Duo, I can 90% replicate on the Fold, and I get all the other cool stuff like a really good camera and wireless charging and on and on, and Android 11 with those features and all that good stuff. So it's hard for me to justify picking my Duo back up at this point. So for the Duo, when will Android 12 happen? Don't
make a prediction. Don't
hold your breath. I hate to be this way, but like we're probably still 3 months away from Android 11. So a year and a half from now, maybe? Like by the time Android 12 hits the Duo, Android 13 will be on some devices. That's
that's like unacceptable.
I hope I'm wrong, but like if you're going to disagree with me and tell me that I'm wrong, like what are you basing it on? Because I've had Android 11 on this foldy boy since I bought it 6 months, or not 6 months ago, but whatever, 3 months ago or something.
Yeah.
It's been on it for 4 months or so. So like, and I keep hearing this from people saying like, well, Microsoft, they just started Android development, shortly before the Duo launched, and they just brought their Android development team in-house, so they're just getting rolling. Okay. It switched to Android a year before launch. It's been out for, 8 months or something like that? So you could say minimum a year and a half they've been working on Android. like ZTE's putting out phones, like I guess they've been working on it that long. It's Microsoft. They're the greatest software developer to ever exist, the biggest to ever exist. And it's like people.
It's really not an excuse for them.
No, they should be able to start. They should be able to start on Android development and in 6 months be pretty fucking good at it. I'm sorry, it's Microsoft. If Microsoft is like, oh, we just can't figure out Android, this thing that tiny companies can figure out. Like, come on. There are cheap Android gaming handhelds that are $120 and they run Android, and they're more stable than the damn
You
Duo.
buy stuff on Wish and it'll have Android on it.
Like, come on. Like, that's such a lame excuse. I think the actual excuse is that they're focusing on the sequel really, really heavily. And I think that's the actual excuse. And that's probably a pretty charitable interpretation, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
But that's what I've got.
Because it'd be hard to say for sure, but and
if it's not that, it's just
gotta be.
If it's not that, it's just that they suck. Like, that's the only other alternative. So, what else could it be? Let's see here. From that first question was from Michael Beeson, asked about Android 11 on the Duo. So there's your answer there. In the next 3 or 4 months, that's the best I can do for you. I can say should have been already, but instead it will be by September, which is when the Zeta will probably launch.
Yeah.
Maybe Zeta here's my prediction. Surface Zeta launches with Android 11 and Duo gets it right about that same time. That's my prediction.
Or on the same day at the same time.
That might be too much for them to handle. They may get a little
No, they're throwing it out there for the people who are still using Duo. And guys, guess what?
For you guys, you're not being left out. I mean, that is entirely possible. Okay.
I guarantee it.
From Stephen Lamoureux, Lamoureux. I'm going to go with Lamoureux. Feels good. Feels right.
Or Lamoureux.
I feel like you said the same thing I did, but you put the emphasis on law and I put it on Mo.
Yeah.
So he asked, Fold 3 worth upgrade based on what we know? So based on what I know now, I would say no. My understanding is the only real difference between the Fold 2 and the Fold 3, apparently the crease is going to be much less noticeable. Apparently they've really gotten better at that. It's going to fold flat or basically flat. The camera is going to be very, very similar. The interior camera will be an under-display camera, so no hole punch. And it's going to have a faster processor, similar battery, similar screen size. The outer screen will be high refresh rate instead of being 60 hertz. So if you've already got a Z Fold 2 and you think essentially, under-display camera, fold flat, less noticeable crease is worth dropping another $2,000, that's your call. I would say no, unless they come out and there's something that they're just like, we just don't know about and it's just something wild. I think that for most people, the Z Fold would be a 2 or 3 year cycle because it's so expensive. Yeah. It's hard to justify a yearly upgrade on something like that. So that's where I'm at. I'm from all the leaks. I'll put it this way too. All the leaks I've seen have made me more and more happy that I bought the Fold 2. Because I'm like, oh, I don't care about that. Like people are like, oh, like the crease, the gap in the middle. Oh God, don't you wish you didn't have the gap in the middle? I'm like,
it's fine.
It doesn't bother me. Is it worth me spending another $2,000 to get? No, not at all. The camera is going to be another triple set of 12 megapixels, no periscope, nothing crazy. That would be my answer to that one. He also asked about Sharp Aquos announced a phone in the last couple of days, the R6, and this thing looks redonkulous. And Jessi, I will send you a link to this real quick so that you can just get a visual on it.
Okay.
And I'll put it up on the podcast. So this thing, obviously, the big thing that you're going to be, looking at when you look at this thing is that it's got one camera on the back, and that camera that camera is fucking enormous. It is a 1-inch sensor. The actual sensor is 1 inch across.
It started playing ad music at me. I'm like, stop.
So, and I don't know if this article here has more specs than we knew before, but whenever I first looked at it, basically what we knew was that it was made in conjunction with Leica. It was a 1-inch CMOS sensor, and so that's the key feature. The rest of it's a 5,000 milliampere battery, Snapdragon 888. I mean, it's a top-end spec phone. But the biggest thing is that you look at it and you go, wow, that camera is freaking huge. So most cameras, and I talked about this in a video already, but I'll briefly go over it. Your Pixel 5, the sensor would be about roughly 3/4 of an inch across. A little less than, I think, if I'm remembering right, but like right around 3/4 of an inch across. The sensor in the Z Fold 2 is like somewhere between 2/3 of an inch and 3/4 of an inch across, somewhere in that ballpark, generally speaking. The sensor in the Xiaomi Mi 11 Pro is very nearly an inch across, but not quite there. This one is an inch across. Okay, what does that mean? Well, the bigger your sensor, the more light it can absorb. So more light can get in. What does that get you? It gets you better detail, and it gets you more bokeh, if you're into that kind of thing. This camera is going to be bokeh AF. A lot of people get confused and they say, well, no, the aperture is what determines bokeh. No. Yes, but also no.
Yeah.
If you have two cameras that are both set at f1.6, and one has a 1-inch sensor and one has a 1/2 inch sensor, the inch sensor will have way more bokeh. At a fixed, everything else fixed, the bigger sensor has more bokeh. So you also notice on this thing, there's only one camera, just one camera sensor there. You don't have a telephoto and an ultra wide. I may be wrong about this, but for sure half of this is going to be true. The reason that there's no telephoto is that you don't need it. With a sensor that big, it's probably going to, maybe they said this, but let me look and see if they mentioned megapixel here anywhere on this article. Maybe they didn't. Just gonna double check. You would have to think the megapixel is out there somewhere, but I don't think that they've said yet. At least 48 or 50 megapixels, which just says the resolution. It's gonna take big pictures. You don't need a telephoto. If all you're gonna put on there is a two times telephoto lens, don't worry about it, because you're gonna take super big, super detailed pictures. Just crop in. You can literally just have the camera app just zoom in artificially, software, and take a picture. It's fine. You don't need it. Just like your Pixel 5 can do 2x zoom and it looks fine. Well, it's not doing it. It's doing it with Google Magic. Well, this thing will do it even better because it's going to take really detailed photos. Just crop in. It's fine. That part is almost certainly that's true. Like, that's just going to be what it's going to do. As for like a wide angle, it's possible that they're just going to slap a wide angle, like an ultra wide on it. And theoretically, you could have it be an ultra wide. You wanted to shoot standard, it crops. You wanted to shoot telephoto, it crops. And you could have one camera sensor just pull triple duty and do all of it. Hell, you could almost even have if it's an ultra wide, it could almost do macro too, because ultra wides can sometimes focus even closer. So you have one baller sensor, just do 4 things if you wanted to do that, when you have a 1-inch sensor, which is insane. It's the first time we've seen a sensor this big since, like, Panasonic did it like 6 years ago and nobody cared, because the hardware, it didn't really mean much back then, because just hardware's gotten so much better now. But Sharp has made some decent phones over the years, so I'm really excited to see, what this thing will actually, like, what kind of pictures it's actually going to take.
Yeah.
Like, if it's actually going to take, like, really good pictures or not. Because, I mean, the hardware is obviously there.
Mm-hmm.
You really couldn't ask for much more in terms of hardware.
Is it going to matter now? Probably.
Well, and for, so Google's always taken this weird approach of, like, okay hardware, but really good software to bridge the gap. Well, now, you know, Sharp is going the other way. You imagine their software is probably not going to be that great, but their hardware is incredible. Well, now you've got stuff from, it's the wrong link there. Where did it go? Maybe it's just not on here. Well, now we've seen like the Pixel 6. Most certainly, Google's going back the other way now, where you're going to have much higher end hardware. The latest leaks for the Pro are saying ultra wide, standard, and a 5x periscope camera. And you can tell by the size of that camera bump, you're not getting a couple of 12 megapixel sensors like you are on the Pixel 5. You're going to be getting at least 48s in that range. So Google is now...
It's about time for Google to have a decent camera. I mean, you know...
It's had a great camera,
better than a decent.
But
yeah.
Then you start like, so for the longest time, you're like, oh, can't wait to see what Google does with the next Pixel's camera. They're always so much better than everybody else's. The last
and then they didn't.
The last like 3, they've not really done anything. So they've been really similar. Now you start thinking, what is Google going to do with a 5x periscope camera?
Let's find out.
What is Google going to do with a 48 megapixel, 50, 64 megapixel camera? Holy crap. Because they use a 12 and take pictures as good as people using a 108. So what are they going to do with an actual, like with good hardware? Like it could be incredible. What do you think about the visual appearance of the leaks of the Pixel 6?
I want a closer look, but from what I've seen, I really like the pink one, or I guess it's kind of pink. They always do something, and at the first glance, I'm like, oh, it's weird. And then I'm like, wait, I love it.
You have more time to sit and think about it, and then you're like,
yeah.
When I first saw it, that was my first thought was, I was like, I don't know if I hate this or love it. Like, it looks really, really weird.
I think I kind of like it, but then, I mean, like, I love this phone so much because it's just so simple. It's a great color. Screen looks good. It's not huge. Also, like, how big is
we don't know.
Is the 6?
Probably 6.7 inches on the Pro, and the Pixel 6 might be a bit smaller, but you're going to lose the periscope camera. So
they always do something to want to pull me back. Like, I really want a flip phone,
like the Razr or the Z
I really
Flip.
want the Razr or the Z Flip, but then they release something, and I'm like, oh, the camera's gonna be really good. It's just gonna be a good phone.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited because this is the first time we're seeing Google in so long, like not innovate, but like push specs again. Because like even the Pixel 5, which I gave them credit on the Pixel 5 for not going crazy. They just made a really good phone for a good price. Yeah. Great battery life. Performance is totally fine.
Love it.
Yeah, it's a great phone. Well, think about it like this. It's a Snapdragon 765G. The Pixel 6 will have either the AAA. There are also rumors that it's going to be running their own custom hardware.
That's going to be really cool too if it works.
The Whitechapel project. Apparently they're developing their own silicon. With the Pixel 5, a lot of people are like, oh, it's not a flagship. I want the the 888 in there or whatever. Okay. I'm going to tell y'all something. This runs the Snapdragon 865 Plus. For the last month and a half, I have been running this thing on power saving mode, which reduces the CPU to 70% utilization. It never goes higher than 70% of its clock speed. It basically is just underclocked. I would challenge any of you, if I've been editing videos on it for TikTok and shit. I would challenge any of you to hold 2 of these, one that's underclocked and one isn't, just to do normal stuff and to tell me which one's underclocked, because you won't be able to. The 765G in that Pixel is fine. Yeah. It's fine. So if this Whitechapel stuff that they're making for their new phones, if it's like super power sipping and it has really good battery life and the performance is at least, a little bit better than the Pixel 5, then they're not going crazy on silicon. They're not going crazy trying to strap a V12 engine into their car. But then they are focusing on really good camera and put a 5,000 milliamp hour battery in there and put a fast charger in there. I think if they do this, then I will be able to say, Google, you are finally focusing on the right things again.
Yeah.
You have finally figured it out again, which is wonderful because that's good for all of us.
I can't wait to see what the camera is going to be like. I'm really excited. That's the only thing is like, I like the camera on here because it's really simple, especially for me. But I want to see them get back ahead again. Like I feel like no one ever beats iPhone as far as their cameras, like for mainstream phones. But it would be really cool to see Google like catch up a little bit.
Yeah.
And be a little bit, noteworthy. There are some people at my work who come in and they know what I'm using. But a lot of people are like, oh, what phone is that? And I'm like, it's a Pixel. Like, I don't feel like it's not obscure,
It's the 5th series Pixel, and there's been a series too.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot of Pixel phones at this point, but they've never really been that phone that like broke in and really, and became the iPhone competitor that I think that they wanted it to be.
Yeah.
So
I want to see what they can do, but I am afraid of the price tag because holy crap, phones are getting so expensive.
They are. So speaking of stuff that's really expensive, I also talked a bit about the fact that The Verge, they're basically saying that it's unlikely we'll ever see Surface Neo. Well, then Samsung comes out and they drop this little video where they show off several different devices, and one of them is this big 17-inch tablet that can be folded in half. So it's basically a big folding laptop.
Tablet.
So you take the Neo's two separate screens, right? So instead of having two separate screens, you just make it one big OLED and you fold it in half anyways. And like I said in a video where I talked about it, if I'm using something like my Fold and I'm in my camera and I begin to fold it, it knows that and it goes into flex mode, right? So now I got two things going on. If I go to YouTube or Disney Plus or whatever, the same thing will happen. Where if I'm watching a video, and I'll demonstrate this too here very quickly. If I'm watching a video and I fold it in half, you get the same thing going on where I've got my video up top and I will wind up having either video controls at the bottom or I'll have the comments at the bottom. Whatever. So all of that stuff is kind of built in. And I think the thing that most people, when they look at the Neo, the point is you want to have two things going at once, two separate apps at once. Well, with this kind of a device, there's no reason that you can't, how is this not just a best of both worlds scenario? Because you can do this and have flex mode is a thing. So I want to have a dual monitor experience. So I just go and then it intelligently goes, oh, it's creased, go to dual monitor mode. And now you got then you're going to watch a show on Netflix and you want like a crazy cinematic experience. So you go and it goes, okay, now we're in one monitor mode and it extends across. It's a best of both worlds scenario. Now, we don't know what this is. This is a concept. So is it going to, would this thing run Windows? Would this thing run Android? We don't know any of that stuff yet. I will say this, though, because a lot of people were saying, well, if it runs Android, I don't care because the point of Neo was it was Windows. It was Windows 10X. And if my option was to have, look, if I had Surface Neo, y'all are going to think I'm out of my fucking mind. But with Surface Neo, if my options out of the gate was Windows 10X in the state it was in, or Android, give me Android. Because Windows 10X is not Windows. I'm not going to install, what makes Windows Windows? I can install Steam, and I can play games on. I can install the video editor that I use, and I can use it with a mouse and keyboard, and it's really powerful. Guess what you're not going to have on Windows 10X? None of that shit. None of it. You don't get any of that. All you get, hit your start button, type in store, and go to the Windows store. That's what you get. So if I could have that or Android, I'm taking Android. I know a lot of y'all hate Android, and I part of me doesn't understand, and part of me does understand because you're using it on the Duo, and it is Android on the Duo is like Android was on a normal phone 5 years ago in terms of stability and usability. It's mind-bogglingly bad. But if use a good Android phone for like 3 months, and you're gonna go, oh, it's fine, it works well, it never crashes, there's no problems, battery's good. So again, my options are Windows 10X or Android. I'm taking Android. So like you use your Duet sometimes, your Chromebook Duet, and you use your Samsung Chromebook as well, and you'll use stuff like that to like watch TV on your lunch break and stuff like that. What do you think of the idea? Because I think this is fucking radical. A 17-inch, that's big. That's a big old screen that you could fold up and take to work with you, and you're on your lunch break and you watch a TV show, and you can go, bah, and have this fucking OLED like home theater experience. Like, what do you think? I mean, granted, it would be expensive as shit to start, but like, what do you think of something like that?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna view it kind of like a media device because that's how I would use it. I wouldn't be using it for like productivity or anything because that's not how I use my devices. I use it for YouTube, Netflix, Hulu, consuming that kind of media, and I think I would love it.
Now, at the same time, though, the bigger the screen is and the more discrete the two sections are, I think the more natural multitasking becomes. And I personally am really into the idea of you're sitting there working on something, and maybe you watch a YouTube video, and it would be this incredible giant screen, which would be incredible. Probably great stereo speakers, because I mean the Z Fold 2 has incredible stereo speakers, so why wouldn't this? And then you think, I'm gonna do something else. So you just take your finger and you poke the middle where it bends, and you just go boop, and it bends. And then it swaps over to dual screen mode. And then maybe you've got Twitter open, and then someone tweets a link to a news story, so you click on the link and it opens up in a web browser on the other screen, and you've essentially got the Surface Duo experience on a giant-ass screen that could be an incredible... On your Duo, you're not going to watch a movie spanned across the hinge because it sucks. You got a hinge in the middle of it.
No.
I just think this is like a best of both worlds experience, and I think that even someone like you, I think you would find yourself multitasking more on a device like that, because I think you'd find yourself holding it more like with the Duo. I would find myself kind of holding it like this, like you hold a book, and you're thumbing through your book. It's comfortable to hold it this way, and I think with this thing being that big, I think you would hold it that way too, and it would actually, if it's in tablet mode, you'd want to have two hands on it. But if it's in book mode, you could probably kind of hold it like that, right? But then you'd be in that dual screen mode, and I feel like it would feel really natural to interact with both screens like that. And like, it's even like little things, like how often we're trying to log into something, and it needs, we're gonna send you an email with a verification code. You gotta go home, go to your Gmail or your Outlook, and copy the link, and you go home again, and you go back into the app and paste it. Something like that, you never have to go home. You just have it open, and it just, open up my email over here. And then you can long press the code and drag it over to the box and release. That kind of stuff is really underrated in these sorts of dual screen and folding devices. I think it looks really cool. I can't wait to see more about this thing.
What was the one called that like folded like that and then it folded again?
The tri-fold. So they've not named any of this stuff. They literally just put this out as a teaser and just basically said like, hey, we're working on some weird stuff. And the tri-fold one is pretty cool. It's pretty wild.
I like it.
I would encourage you guys to watch the video that I posted the other day where I kind of break this down a little bit more. You'll be able to see it better. Yeah. I mean, I love this stuff. I love that they're working on weird stuff and different sorts of things. And it'd be so easy for Samsung to sit on top of their ivory throne in their tower of dominance.
On top of the note phones and not do anything else.
But they're not. They're experimenting. And And we know that they're right because when they came up with the design for this phone, other companies had other designs, and guess what? Everybody's now using their design. Mm-hmm. So they've all tacitly admitted that Samsung had it right. Samsung knows what they're doing. Like, I was not a big fan of theirs for a long time because I didn't like their TouchWiz UI, but One UI is much better. And I think that the proof that they've gotten really good at software is in the pudding. Because, look, Google is rebuilding Wear OS with Samsung. Google basically has said, again, tacitly, but they've said, hey, Wear OS just kind of isn't doing what we wanted to do. Like, it's just not very good. And hey, Samsung's Tizen stuff is really good. It's better than Wear OS in a lot of ways. It's got better battery. It's got better responsiveness. We just need to go to Samsung and be like, hey, can you fucking help us? Like, can we just build a unified... And this is actually beneficial for both sides because Google wants you to use their stuff. Like, Google wants Samsung to use Wear OS. And Samsung is like, we don't want to. It's bad. So then Google's like, well, then help us fix it.
Then you do it yourself.
And then you get Fitbit in on it too, who, by the way, for me, Fitbit, their operating system has better battery life, is more responsive. Like I've said before, triggering Google Assistant is faster on my Fitbit than it was on my Fossil, which is fucking stupid. So between those three companies, Fitbit, Samsung, and Google, can we get a good smartwatch? I think so. I think between the three of them, we're bound to get something pretty good. So, yeah, Samsung's doing crazy, wild stuff with foldy, bendy screens.
They haven't lost their passion at all, which is really good.
I'm really happy. I'm really excited that we are in... Phones got really boring for a minute. Every phone was just a big slab with big camera bumps. And granted, we did spend a lot of the time in this video fawning over Google making a slab with a camera bump, but
yeah,
different reasons. But now we've got, Sharp putting out their ridiculous camera module. We got Samsung making foldy phones. Xiaomi's making foldy phones. Google's making a foldy phone, by the way. Android 12, somebody found buried in some of the code a reference to Google Passport, which is the known code name of their folding phone.
Oh, wow.
So it's still in
Can
development.
They make one that looks like the Flip and then it has like the Pixel camera and then we'll be good?
My understanding is that the Passport's going to be more like the Fold than the Flip, but yeah, we're going to see more Flip style devices. We've got two right now. More will come. Phones are not boring right now. Phones are really fun again. And I'm like, Mr. Mobile had that video series when phones were fun. And like, I was right with him. Like, yeah,
you miss those days.
Phones aren't fun and experimental anymore.
Yeah.
But guess what? Phones are fucking experimental again. Oh, Samsung also showed off a rolling phone that rolls out. So it's like, I love it. Keep experimenting. Keep throwing crap at the wall and seeing what sticks. I'm super into it, and it's been a lot of fun over the last few months. As much as people think I crap on Duo, I actually had a comment that I almost want to pull up so I can read it because it made me laugh really hard. I'm going to load it up real quick here. People give me crap saying that I'm like, oh, I'm dumping on the Duo. I'm not. I'm just being honest, and look, if there's somebody out there more excited about Surface Zeta, find them. I don't know who they are. I'm so excited about the next Surface phone. Trust me. I'm not excited about spending the damn money again because almost certain Microsoft's not going to send me this fucking phone. Like, they're just not.
They should.
They should. Has anybody on YouTube talked about their fucking phone more than me? Is anybody like I've sold you phones, Microsoft. If you give me one and you let me review and talk about it, trust me, people will buy them from my links, okay?
Hey, let's all make a formal letter to Microsoft. Let's see if we can publicly ask them to
pressure them into
donate a phone.
I mean, geez, man, I feel like I'm doing them a service at this point. Now, granted, I've hit them a little hard the last few months, but
they're like,
whatever.
Fuck that guy.
I'm just being honest here. Here's the comment, and you might have to kind of somewhat decipher this, but it was on my 6-month Duo review. He said, dude, ... some people are trying to sell this shit on eBay. Chill out. When you want to sell an insurance phone, there was no one there to buy it, and it's your fault partially. So
What?
I think what he's saying is people are trying to sell their Duos on YouTube, and no one's buying them because they're watching my 6-month review and deciding not to buy the phone anymore. So I responded and said, next time I'll lie so that you can sell your phone on eBay. My bad. Like,
Wow.
get the fuck out of here. Stop
That's
watching
your
my videos.
fault.
Damn it, I was trying to sell my phone and you're over here telling people it's bad. It's like, Jesus. But I'm super pumped about the sequel, you know? Like, again, I'm not pumped about having to shell out money again. But it is what it is. I don't see how I could not do it at this point. I have to cover it. So maybe hit that scaryifliteral.com, hit that donation button and help me out a little bit.
Donations!
Because that shit's not cheap. And just in case you're curious, being a YouTuber getting 100,000 views a month, not super lucrative. It's not like I'm rolling in the dough over here. This has kind of been a labor of love. I'm not starving, but do I have it in my budget to buy a Surface Duo? Not happily, no.
We have a really fat princess to feed.
Yeah,
So
yeah, vet bills and things like that. So, you know, it is what it is. So I think we've hit the end of this video. We're at 46 minutes. A lot to talk about in this video, and I think we did a good job of covering pretty much everything. Anything you want to add before we close down shop?
just donate.
Scaryfliteral.com, links to
Subscribe.
YouTube, Twitter, etc. Hit that sub button, hit that like button, hit that join button if you want to do that. There's a donate button on scaryfliteral.com that goes straight to me via PayPal immediately. There's also a Patreon account that is also going to be in the description if you want to do that. There's plenty of ways to support the channel if that's something you can do. If you can't do that, that's fine. I understand. Don't worry about it. Just hit like. That helps. Drop a comment. That helps. Don't ever do anything that's going to put you in a bad spot financially to help out this YouTube channel. Strictly up to you at that point. So, yeah, thank you for joining me today, Jessi. My name is Shane. This has been Podcast Revived. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.